Hello, punters, and welcome to another episode of the Footy Form Guide podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Wally, joined as always by my good mate, Harro. Harro, I'm up and about. 2 rounds to go. How are you, mate?
Well, I'm not surprised you're up and about, Wally. I'm thinking that last Friday morning you must have jumped out of bed with a real pep in your step, mate.
It was pretty good, mate. Honestly, wasn't expecting it. But no, it was really good. Good performance, and looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Also, very excited because I'm back at the footy on Saturday with my boy, and he's missed a few because there's been a bit of interstaters, and I've had to go and fly the flag for the family and do all that and have nights away and nights out. But this week I got him back, and there might be a special guest I've heard at the MCG this Saturday, Harro.
Yes, mate. Yeah, I am going to make an appearance at the G on Saturday. First game of footy I think I've been to since about 2018, I think.
Wow.
Look, I don't leave. I rarely go past like Blairgowrie or Rye. So for me to come to the city, it's kind of a big deal. But it should be a bit of fun catching up with a few mates. So yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, mate. Let's get stuck straight in. Our highlights and lowlights. Another good week on the punt.
Mate, excellent week. It was actually doesn't get much better than last Thursday night, Wally, when we had and I'll put you under the pump a little bit here, having the Hawks as the best bet. Because I know that Wally puts himself under enough pressure when his Hawkies are playing, let alone, putting the best bet up in that game. But, mate, it couldn't have gone any better. So, obviously, we had the Hawks as the best bet. In that match, we also had the Hawks to win by 40 plus, which paid $10. The under total points, we put up a same game multi in that one. It paid $5. On a disposals front, we had more over his disposals with Nash, Impey and Sicily also. So that game was an absolute fill-up. And well done to the guys as well out there who were following us in. And they posted their bet slips up on our Twitter, and there were some big winners in there, Wally. So well done to Radjet Bose, Craig Not Trots, Yab, Gideon 444, Jay Connor, Sauce, and Meds AU. All these guys had big days on the punt, thanks to the pod, and we did also. So, mate, we were wrapped, and getting up Friday morning, it was just a nice feeling. You've absolutely filled your bag.
It was good too, and you know what I love is these guys are. Everyone, please share the bet slips, or you can just share that you had a win. You don't need to share how much and all that. But we love it because most of these people aren't just going, "Oh, what did Harro say? I'll copy it." They're building bets off everything that, like I do with you, learning about the way to do it, and also just following your insights and then creating their own bets. It's not all just, okay, I'm going to copy that SGM that put out. It's the other bits and pieces. And that's what our community is about. And I'm loving that that's happening more and more. Because, mate, look, we do this for fun, but we have a punt ourselves. So our reward is if we get things right, we win on the punt. The other reward is just the fact that it's really, really cool that we've got all these people that are winning as well. So mate, it genuinely, I don't say this lightly, we love it when any of our listeners win. So make sure our viewers win. Make sure you're sharing it with us because it gives us an absolute buzz.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about. We're here to help the punters, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. So, well done to all those guys. And we might have to set up a little tips jar or something. I feel like we're owed a few beers at least for this, the God's work that we're doing.
That's all we ask.
Anyway.
Couple of beers. Anyway, mate, what else over the weekend?
Oh, mate, there was plenty, really. But, I feel like, nothing could really top that Hawthorn game. So we'll leave it there with the highlights.
Okay.
There was plenty other highlights too. I think, personally, I won on 8 of the 9 games. And also, and listening back to the pod, really, 8 of the 9 games were, we were pretty spot on the money. So, very happy.
Great. Now, where we get things right, we always get things wrong. What did we miss? We didn't miss a lot on the weekend, but what did we miss?
Well, the biggest disappointment for me was we've had the train that's been running with all the, finalists playing the non-finalists. And Brisbane derailed that train, which was very flattening. I actually didn't have this game in the original train, but I put it in once Sydney became mathematically impossible to make finals.
Because live by the sword, Harro, die by the sword. And we said we'll always back a team that has something to play for over a team that doesn't. Clearly, Sydney thought winning a revenge game was more important than actually turning up on grand final day. So for them, things that matter are different, Harro.
Well, yeah, mate, and it was very disappointing because I would have loved to have seen this run right through to the end of the season. It would have been a massive fill up, like for starters, but also just would have been good fun to be able to keep following it for the last 2 weeks. So personally, yeah, I think that was our biggest low light for the week, and I thought Brisbane probably should have won too. Like they kind of, Fakes said it in his presser as well. It's like bad kicking for goalies, like bad footies. Like our set shots we kicked. I think he said they don't quote me exactly. I'm paraphrasing, but we kicked 3 goals, 6 with 3 complete misses. They kicked 9 straight, something like that from their set shots. Yep. He's like Heaney's just snapping him from the boundary. And how many times this year is Heaney going to win his team a game of footy based on his performance, mate? When you just look at where one player has had it doesn't happen in footy a lot. Like it happens in basketball and stuff where like you're one of 5 players on the court, you can have a real impact. Footy, you're only one of 18 on the field at a time. Isaac Heaney at least 3 times this year has won his team the game like clearly and been the complete difference in the match. So anyone who doesn't have Heaney like in their top 3 players in the comp, like I don't think they're following the footy properly because this guy
he's incredible,
is an absolute star.
I would say it's not. I'm not comparing him as a player, so I'll just clear that up first. But the last player I think we've seen that's won games like this and had this impact is Dustin Martin. I mean, Dustin Martin, without him, Richmond have 2 flags, not 3. Maybe who knows? Like they did win the others convincingly. But 2020, he won a grand final that he basically picked them up off the canvas and won them the game. So I look at this and I go, and you saw Dusty do it a lot. Heaney is that sort of player. And don't get me wrong, I love Chad Warner as well. I reckon Chad's great. Goulden's a great player. But geez, they are going to need to do some work in their off-season because I think they can come back and be really good on what their bottom 5 players, because that's how we know, that's how you win flags, how your worst 5 perform. They've got to do some work on their depth in the off-season. And if they can come back fit, they're one for me for the futures. We won't get into that now, but I think given they've missed by a bit, we'll probably get a good price for them to do something next year. Anyway, mate, let's get stuck in. We've got some questions off social. And we'll get through as many as we can, and then we'll get stuck into the games. Swish bets. Where's the value with Laird out this week, Harro?
I actually do talk to this in the game preview. So
should we just wait till
save
then?
Save
Great.
it for that, yeah.
Next one, an account called Bets That Don't Win just said, how do you win bets? Which I chuckled at. All right. Max Jenkin. Okay. So it's easy to see when you're getting rorted on a basic over-under, e.g. $1.80 on both sides. But when betting futures, what is your cutoff for a bookie's over-round percentage? Just looking at the Brownlow, and he's done the maths here, he goes, it's about 120%, whereas to miss the top 8 is about 115%. Where do you look at, Harry? Because a normal sporting market is that 5 to 8%, right? That's what we usually see in just a head-to-head regular. I've spent a lot of time with horse racing, so the 112, 115% I'm no stranger to. And we know that the multi-SGMs are probably 125, 130%. Where do you look, Harro, when it comes to
really,
future?
It depends, on sometimes, the reason I don't back those 0 to 39 markets very often, they're often set to 140%. So, I tend to just avoid those a lot. I haven't checked it for a while, but last time I checked, they were setting that to 140%. That's way too far out on the bookie side for me. But I feel like that 115 to 120, 125% is kind of acceptable, in these type of markets. Obviously, the line markets, the bigger markets, you want to get a closer percentage, and the closer down to 100% you get, the better. But even if you're just on Betfair, which is going to be 100%, market, but you've got to pay commission there, which makes it more like 105, 106% anyway. So, anywhere in that range. But with those future markets, and there's a lot of there's a lot of selections in there. So, if you are getting something like 115%, that's fine.
Yep, absolutely. And look, Harro, we have a lot of different people that listen to this, and the vast majority will know, but by percentage that means for every $100 that's going through, the book's winning 10% or 15% on top of it. So it just means that, or whatever dollar. So the bookmaker is making that sort of money. So the bigger the percentage, the worse the odds are, the better the odds are for them. And with Betfair, it's a good shout. Standard of 5% if you're betting on Betfair. When you're looking at the odds, make sure you take your 5% off that, because that is going to be going when you win your bet. So you lose your money. You win your bet. Of your winnings, you lose 5% to Betfair. That's their VIG for housing the bets, but 105% still better than most places, Harro. All right. Our man Jack. Harro mentioned last week that a player would go over their line but wouldn't be jumping to bet on it. Just wondering, how many lines do you see like that? How many you actually put the bet on, and what factors stop you from making the bet? So we've spoken about this before, where you go, oh, look, I think they can clear it, but the line's big enough, I'm happy to leave it. Is it, how do you evaluate that, Harro? Which ones you do want to be a part of and don't want to be a part of?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm setting my own lines, and the further away my line is from where the price is, or where their line is going to dictate how much I'm going to have on that bet. But like for instance, like anything where, because also you have to have a little bit of like a percentage for being wrong. So you're going to think so you have to have a bit of fat on there in case, there's something that you haven't factored in or anything like that. So I really won't consider anything where I think the market's only 10% out. I'll start considering things over that 10% sort of range, and then staking up from there, basically. But if I think, when I say, I've got a lean, or I like this, but, maybe I'm not jumping at it, I'm thinking that the average error is maybe under 10%. Where I'm starting to get keen on something, I'm thinking the average error is over 10%.
Yeah. So you might have a line of 27. If you see 23, you want to be on board. If you see a 25 or 26, you probably leave it.
Yeah, I'm thinking twice. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So next, Louis, would account bans be more likely for tackles and marks? Would bookies place more emphasis on settling, disposal, and goal lines according compared to these markets? Is there any resources that assess for against for these areas like there is for disposal? So it's an interesting question. Like, the niche you go, are you more likely to get banned? I know that unders are recognised as more sharp than overs. I know that. Harro, have we got any? Do we know about this?
Well, I mean, I'm speculating just based on experience, but I would definitely say that yes, if you're like being really targeted towards tackles and marks and these types of things, that you're probably going to get flagged as because you got to think as well. They've got a couple of guys in there trying to frame hundreds of markets now, and so it's going to be pretty hard for them to be across like marks, tackles. I think I even saw like clearances you could bet on, and like there's a lot of stuff now that you can bet on, and it's definitely true that the more you're digging into these niche markets, like the likelihood of them not wanting to accept your action is going to increase.
Yep. Harro, I will say this: if you're betting on clearances, be prepared to get even angrier at Champion Data, because if you think they miss a disposal, they definitely miss a clearance. So I would just tread carefully with all of this stuff. None of us are perfect. Neither are they. We don't act like we are, though. All right, next. Our man Mikey, thoughts on Brisbane? I love this. Missing the 8 at $9. Got to play Freo on the Hawks. Okay, other things do have to happen here, but I've liked this for a little while, Harro. Brisbane against Freo over there. Freo keep finding a way to win. So they can lose that game. Then they've got to play Hawthorn. The only thing is that there's a few other things that do have to happen for them to miss. It's not a huge amount. It's not like Collingwood where everything needs to go like right for every other team. But I mean, what do you think? I don't mind this at all, Harro.
I think it's as simple as Brisbane have to lose both of their games and the Doggies have to win both of their games.
Is that it?
That
Doggies have to win? Oh, well, your Doggies you'd think would be winning.
Yeah, no, the Dogs have I think they play Freo, don't they, in the last game?
Yeah, but it's at Marvel.
Yeah, so just like let's just do the prices, right? So let's say that the Lions are like $1. Let's say they're $2.
No, I've got the prices here, Harro. Harro, I've got the prices
here. What are they?
So Freo, so they have to lose. So Freo, I think it's a good price, by the way. Freo to win against the Lions is $1.77. Hawthorn to beat the Lions is currently $2.29, which could come in if they win and Lions lose. Then the Dogs to win against Freo is $1.39.
Oh, and that's short.
Dogs to beat West Coast $1.01. Harro, this is a good price. What's that work out to be?
Good price. Yeah, $5, say $5.70.
And it's probably going to shorten. If Brisbane lose to Freo and Hawthorn beat Melbourne, that you would think the price on Hawthorn comes in, wouldn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
it's a bet.
I do. Yeah, I think it's a bet. Yeah, whether you think it'll actually happen or not. It's very much in play. $9. Yeah, I'd have to agree there,
yep.
Wally.
Great spot. Absolutely love that, Mikey. Very, very smart. All right, Lockie, with no merit and shield, who do you boys think will get the CBAs for the Dons?
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to matter, but anyway, but I feel Essendon. I'm not even going to bag it. They've hit the sympathy area for me, areas for me, which is a lot as a Hawthorn supporter to say. Yeah, but who will get? Because there might be something here.
Yeah, I do look at this in the game, but just like off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure we'll probably see a bit of Gresham. Might be a guy who might get a bit of a bump in there. I know they played Kako through there on the weekend. He had a lot of CBAs, but he really struggled. So whether they go back to him again, we'll find out. But Gresham would be a guy I could definitely see getting some time in there.
Yep. All right, great. Dizzy asks who you got for Premiership and Brownlow. I think we're still Anderson for Brownlow's who we like, Taro.
Yeah,
no major change there. For the flag, ask me in 6 weeks who wins the Premiership. It's an absolute roller coaster. Can I be honest? I don't like anyone. That's the problem. Like, there's no one I would bet. I have some future on, but there's no one I would put money on now because there's no one I trust. So I'd just be looking at who's a big price. Is it a Freo or GWS or something? But there's no one I trust.
It's not the case that there's not teams good enough to win a flag. Because I think it's actually it's a strange year because there's actually you could put any of these sort of 9 sides in any other year and they'd be still a chance to win a flag. So it's actually really good the way it's worked out.
No, it's like all of these teams have sort of beaten each other. Adelaide. I mean, we're talking about Hawthorn maybe missing. Hawthorn beat Adelaide, then Adelaide beat Hawthorn, right? It's just one example. And then you start going through. GWS beat Geelong down at Geelong. Everyone's beaten everyone no matter where they are. All right. Thoughts on Jeremy Cameron reaching 100 this season, including finals? Sportsbet's 350. For me, it's something we looked at, not just us, but everyone was looking at. I think that there was a massive price of 50, 60 to 1. Price is obviously gone. I don't know. He needs 21? I think he needs. I think he's on. Does he need 21?
Is it more? I think he needs 27. No.
Is it that?
Yeah, he needed 31 and he kicked 4. So I think he needs 27.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Maybe look it up.
Oh, mate, I'm checking it right now. Should actually know that.
Yes.
Off the top of our heads. No, it's 21. I was right. 79 is kicked. So the thing is, he has Sydney who are quite restrictive and Richmond who have been quite restrictive, but may just they haven't given up in any game this year. Maybe they'll want to spoil the party there. Then you got finals, which is a nightmare. You don't want to have distractions in finals of fans running on the ground and all sorts of things. Anyway, I wouldn't bet against Jezza, but I'm not taking the price either. I think it's the best way to put that.
The price isn't appealing, is it?
It's not appealing. But I hope he gets it, Harro. I really like Jezza. And I hope he gets it. I hope he gets it in the next 2 weeks. That'd be huge. We've had some bets on him for the goals, so happy to do that.
He's been good to us. No complaints.
Okay. Unlikely goal kickers and young guns who may get thrown into the midfield minutes from teams out of contention.
Yeah, this is a good one because if you have the answers to this, you can print some money in the last 2 weeks.
Because there will be. We know that this is going to happen. It's just which ones, right?
Yeah. So it's a little bit hard without seeing the teams, which obviously come out on a Thursday night because there will be some clues in there when the teams come out. I have picked out one this week, which we'll go to when we go through the games. We've been on one the last couple of weeks with Cooper Lord.
Yes.
So, there was that one. We had, was it the boy from Melbourne last week who, not Windsor, the other bloke, and he's actually injured now. We had him, number 6. Why does his name keep getting away from me? Anyway, so there will be a few, and we'll be looking for them, but it's a little bit hard without the teams having been named to be able to pick them right now.
Very, very. Just had back-to-back pie questions. One goes, we taking the $3 gift on offer for the pies this weekend or just backing their plus? And then Christian goes, Pies fan here, not a lot of faith this weekend. I see a lot of value in Crows by 40 plus. So we'll get into that when we get into the game. But Pies fans, as I said, a little bit all over the place there. Couple of other quick ones. Free are legit. They make every game ugly and scrappy. They just know how to win. At the end of the day, finals is about just getting over the line and winning. I really don't know. I've tried to work this footy club out for years and I haven't been able to. So I'm not convinced either way. I think their best footy and the way they play and the way they scrap wins, they could definitely win the flag. They're also every chance of getting a home final and getting bundled straight out. So I don't know, mate. Yeah. What do you think?
Actually, I just sort of agree exactly with what you say. It's they've just some weeks they're highly unimpressive. They've kind of got the weapons there, but then you can see their midfield just go to sleep sometimes as well. So I don't think they're going to be good enough to win the flag, but I think that they're building something that possibly can. Like Hayden Young is the guy that can elevate them to that next level. So I think he might be back this week. If they can get some footy into him and get him flying, that makes their midfield so much harder to restrict because then all of a sudden, all right, well, we're gonna restrict, say Sarong. Well, there's other guys that can really get going and damage you then. But without Young there, I don't feel like they've got that dynamic. So, tricky one.
Next one, Bradley asks about some cricket stuff, and he goes, I can also just DM if you don't want cricket chat in the footy pod. Look, we've got too much to cover this week. DM Harro. He's got some cricket questions for you. It's coming up. We're starting to get a little bit of the flavour now. Some T20s, the England-India stuff overseas, which was fun for us to watch unfold. Cricket's going to be big this year, but Harro, I think that's best for your DMs. At what odds do you say a bet just isn't worth it? Where do you draw the line? For instance, if you have a player for 25 touches, what would be the lowest odds to entertain it being a bet? I actually think this is an interesting one, and I've always gone, as long as you think it's value. But I'll tell you, if you think something is a dead certainty should be $1.01, Harro, you're probably still not backing it at $1.10. Like, what do you think? If you go, I know that's going to happen, what is the minimum price you would need to see traditionally? And you just you go, I'm going to put some money on that, not in the multi, just on its own.
Yeah. So I feel like we'd say these disposal bets in the footy. No disposal bet really should be under $1.05.
Okay.
Because I feel like $1.05 is about the odds of a player getting injured. Or something unforeseen happening that will, cause any bet to lose. So, so anything that's under $1.05, I don't even look at really. And then for me, obviously I've already said that anything I'm looking to take all sorts of bets that I consider, a 10% return on investment and better is
Yep.
where I'm operating. So yeah, I will back $1.20 shot if I
Yep.
rated $1.05. No
Okay.
problem. And my thinking around this has changed in the last couple of years. I didn't used to back short prices, but obviously you have to get a lot right. And you have to be very certain around the taking short prices. But I actually thought to myself, why am I leaving all of these bets off the table? If it's value and it's more than 10% ROI value, then why am I not backing it? And so I started to, and it's actually been really good. So yeah.
Great. Good stuff, Harro. Last one here, nice and simple. Who's missing the top 8? Doggies clear favours seems wrong. I agree with you. I think the Dogs will make it. For me, it's Hawthorn, Brisbane, or GWS. If GWS lose to the Gold Coast, they're missing. And I think that I genuinely think that Hawthorn and Brisbane are going to be playing next Sunday night. Winner goes in, loser misses. I think Giants can go up and beat Gold Coast. I think Hawthorn will beat Melbourne. I think Freo will beat Brisbane. I think the Doggies will win both their games. I see this as Hawthorn v Brisbane next week, Sunday night, Harrow.
So that's the
I'm
last
already
game
nervous.
of the round, is
That
it?
makes me sick.
I reckon the game that more likely will be a fight to the death could be the Freo Doggies.
Well, that could
one?
decide it pre. That could decide it pre. I just think
so
the
that one's
Dogs are going to win.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we will know going into the Hawthorn. But I think Doggies are making it. I honestly think it's Hawthorn, GWS, or Brisbane missing. Apart from Brisbane, there's no value in that market, though. All right.
Yeah, next Sunday looks elite. I'm
It's
looking forward
amazing.
to that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The AFL have nailed it. All right. We've got to get into this, Harrow.
Yeah.
Friday night, well, it's a game. We'll touch on the first, get into the second. Essendon plays St Kilda. Essendon's $4.25. St Kilda $1.23. It's the first of 2 Friday night games. The other one's a much bigger one. The line's 26.5 points. Saints just keep getting these wins in. They're not against great sides, but they're winning. They've got bigger fish to fry at the moment. They've got to worry about signing Naz, but I'd be expecting them to get the job done here.
Yeah, I do too. And you look at a little bit disappointing actually. No Thursday night footy this week, but anyway, they decided to put 2 games together on a Friday night. So I don't know, Wally. We could go on about that, but just on the Dons, mate, they're only missing the 18 players this week.
Just the 18. Fair enough.
Just the 18 out. You can now say their best player and captain Merritt, is out. Their first choice ruck, their first choice full forward, first choice full back and centre half back, and their whole first choice midfield. I actually think if they played a game between the guys that are out versus the guys that are playing,
the guys out would win.
The guys out would beat the team. The guys
100%
playing.
they would. Anyone with Zach Meriden probably wins, but they would definitely win.
Yeah, so go ahead.
How are we approaching it then? So we spoke about Essendon midfield. We spoke about all of that. St Kilda line. How are we going to approach this game?
Yeah, I do feel like that you have to take on a team. I feel like this, I can't remember a team having a worse sort of injury list than perhaps like West Coast had. Maybe I think it was back in 22 where they had an insane injury list. This is getting up to that sort of level. And I feel like maybe that the Dons are being a little bit overrated because it did feel like, the Cats maybe went a little bit easy on them with the Cats having just had a 5-day break and whatnot as well. And before that, the Swans, the conditions probably kept them in that a fair bit as well. So the Dons maybe avoided a couple of beltings when maybe they might have had one. And now their team gets even worse. So I feel like the Saints obviously don't have finals or anything to play for, but you can see with the way they're playing that they're still having a crack. So I'm more than happy to be with the Saints here at the line, and also I'll be backing like a high line as well. There's got to be a chance that they get a bit of a hammering in here. So, quite keen there. Where I'd look outside of that, and somebody asked earlier, who's like a young player that's getting exposure at the back part of the season here. And for the Saints, it's Hugo Garcia. A lot of people wouldn't know him if they walked past him in the street, that's for sure. But I've been watching him. He got 20 last week, and now he gets a really good opportunity. He's getting that 75% sort of CBA number,
Yep.
which is what you want to see against the Saints, against a Don's
Excuse me.
midfield, which
Yep.
is literally going to be a VFL midfield. Him to get 20 is, I think that's a really good area. Outside of that, like Rowan Marshall, Rucks have been doing really well with, Goldstein being their opponent. We saw Grundy have 39 against him 2 weeks ago. And Marshall is a high disposal ruck, so I'd be looking to play him as well. Outside of that, mate, just looking to find any sort of Saints players. They're going to be at a big advantage.
Yep. All right, great. Mate, we'll move on to what is a massive game on Friday night. Freo taking on Brisbane at home. So Freo $1.77, Brisbane $2.10. This is a big setup for both of these teams. If either win, that really puts them in a great position to be in the 8. I think Brisbane will lock theirs in if they win. The line's 3.5. Total points is 166.5. Where you sitting, Harro?
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it, Wally? I mean, we've already spoken about Freo, and their form recently, has been very kind of, hard to trust. Like only having really narrow wins against the Blues and Port doesn't really install a lot of faith in how they're going right at this minute. Also, Brisbane as well. Everybody thought that they looked $1 million against Collingwood, but you have to kind of consider how strong a form that is now. And then they've come out and lost, been smashed by the Suns, and also, lost to the Swans on the weekend. So they're a little bit up against it too. So I'll probably be staying out of that sort of who's going to win type bet. Just too hard basket for me, that one right now. And I feel like there'll be better bets across the round. So we'll keep our powder dry. But, obviously got to try and find something for the punters in this one. And it's the midfield for Brisbane. We looked at them last week and we wondered, how are they going to offset Neil not being there? Well, what they actually did was Ashcroft and McCluggage, they actually did even more than what they normally did. And Bailey and Levi Ashcroft just chipped in and did a little bit. So as we saw like recently with Freo, midfielders against Freo have been getting a really good run at it. Like Butters had 29 on the weekend. Cripper and Hewitt both had 36 each the week before that. Tim Kelly 26, well above his average. Dacos 43 before that. So I'll be looking at Ashcroft and McCluggage to do well again here, mate. Outside of that, look, if the teams come out and Hayden Young isn't in there, I know that O'Meara got a full run in the midfield last week and did really well. And I've looked at every time O'Meara has played that full mid-role, he's done really well and his line's only 20. So, that's one that we can look at after teams have come out. But otherwise, mate, pretty tricky game. Yeah.
Cracker to watch, mate. Looking forward to it. Saturday is stacked. Gold Coast, GWS. Gold Coast $1.46 at home. The Giants are $2.75. The line's 13.5 points. Just seasons and top 4 on the line here. This is just going to be awesome. The first time these two have ever played, Harro, and it's really, really mattered, like one of them's going to play finals. We've never been in this position with these two teams this deep before. It's taken 15 years to get us here or thereabouts. This is awesome.
It is, yeah. Yeah, 100%. And how did I look at this one? Well, first of all, it's going to be a perfect day up on the Gold Coast. And I looked back, these two played each other only about 8 weeks ago. And in good conditions, like what we're going to see, they're both fairly attacking sides. And the total points line's 175 here, Wally. And, 200, it made up at 205 last time they played. So I'm already looking at that, thinking that we're gonna find an area there. The Giants, it's a little bit disappointing these two sides can't be meeting, both full strength. And looking at the Giants, who they're missing, Stringer, who'd been in great form, he now goes out of the team. Hogan's only a 50-50 proposition, and if he does play, like we saw him a couple of weeks ago, He was
Yeah.
shocking. So he's really battling anyway. Add to that Kelly, Daniels, and Buckley, where the Suns are just missing Rioli. So I feel like that probably tips things in the Gold Coast favour. But $1.50, I'm not really too keen on the $1.50. So I think we're more likely to be playing the over total points. Now, Anderson is a guy who's going to enjoy not being tagged this week, having come off a tag. We love taking blokes on who were tagged one week. We know they're unlikely to get tagged the following. And we look at what he did last time against the Giants. He had 42 against them last time.
Ooh.
So for him to get 30, I mean, I look at Anderson, and every time he doesn't get tagged, he gets 30. So I'm interested there. And one other sort of point, Wally, the Giants were beaten by 9 or however much by the Doggies. They got wiped off the park. But they looked like their normal self again, having had, a nice break. And you got to remember that, you got to give teams a bit of a mulligan when they have that 3 games in 11 days sort of setup.
Yep.
And not overreact. And so, I feel like the Giants, will see the good Giants again, but it's just whether they're good enough. One other dude that I like here, Wally, and he's a little bit of a young Dustin Martin type. Not saying he's ever going to be as good as him, but Bailey Humphrey. Now, I've noticed that Miller and Davies are in the team together. They're doing all the midfield stuff, and he's pushing forward a lot more. And he's $3 to kick 2 goals or $8 to kick 3. Now, he kicked 2 against the Giants last time, and he's kicked 3 in 2 of his last 3 games. He's getting pretty dangerous.
Love that.
Happy to play that. The other dude that I sort of was watching on the weekend, and he looked a lot more like his old self, was Cogs. He only had the 21, but I could just see the way he was moving. He looked a lot better. And I think his line's 18.5 here. So for him to repeat what he did last week, and I feel like he's only getting a little bit better week by week, I'm happy to have a play at Cogs, who's on the improve and does know how to find footy. So, yeah.
The only fly in the ointment on Saturday, your bag is taking on Port Adelaide. Apart from that, every other game is fantastic. So, Carlton, this will be interesting. Carlton's $1.50, Port's $2.62. I don't know. I feel like they're going to be chips in next week. Gold Coast home, Kenny's last game, all of those things. I think that, I don't know if this is I reckon they got one more emotional win in them, and I think they're going to try and make that next week. I might be wrong. How do you see it? You guys a chance?
I actually agree with you there, Wally. You couldn't really trust the Power away from home at this time of year with their season dead. You look at that, I think that you look at their last away performance compared to their last home performance, it's like night and day. So they definitely choose when they're going to turn up. So I wouldn't be backing the Power here. I do have a few areas that I like, and like we've been talking about this bloke, and it's Lord, and he's done the job on Sarong and Anderson the last 2 weeks. And surely he goes to our favourite South Park character in Butters this week, Wally, and probably shuts him down. So that's a pretty obvious one. Rosie, he's likely to play midfield, and I think with Butters being tagged, he's probably going to be good for his 25, which his line is. Harry Mackay, goals. He kicked 3 last week in a much tougher matchup. We've seen Port all year concede to tall forwards, and so he's coming at this at an advantage as well. Ollie Hollands, Wally, I noticed last week they had him playing this real, they were giving him the footy a lot and trying to get him to create all this run and bounce off half back. And he had 29, and it looked a little bit different what they were doing there. He can get him at 19.5, so happy to play that.
Yep.
And then just lastly, these games that you get at the end of the year, there's not a lot on them, and they tend to go over the total points. And so I'll be happy to have a look at that as well. Great.
All right, we get back into the games that involve finals teams. Not that this is a great game, but Hawthorn playing Melbourne. It's just important to the rest of the season. Melbourne have showed a lot more fight. They nearly spoiled the party for the Dogs. They'll definitely be trying to do the same for the Hawks. They were good against the Hawks early in the year for 3 quarters. Hawthorn ran over. I think that scoreboard of about 5 goals doesn't really tell the full story. So Hawthorn just played one really good quarter of footy there. But they're $1.28. Melbourne's $3.73. The line's 22.5. All that being said, the way the Hawks have come back and now playing, Melbourne, like they are they're putting up some good performances, but their season is completely gone. They've had the lift after the coach goes, all of that. I really do see this as a Hawthorn win, and I see it as a comfortable one. But I'm biased, so we won't listen to what I say. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the team outside of the top nine that's challenged teams inside the top nine the most, it's actually the D's, which maybe says a bit about their chances for next year if they can sort a few things out.
Yep.
But they are dangerous. But I do tend to agree with you, Wally, with just the motivational factors. I could only be with one team here. It's Hawthorn. The Hawks also do have a 9-day break into this compared to the D's, just a 6-day break. So there's a little edge for them there. I look at the player side of things, and it was really good to see Newcomb back to his best last week. He'd had a really quiet month before that, and I could kind of see that maybe he was carrying something. But now, having watched him last week, he was definitely up and about like his old self. And I think we can get him at 23.5, mate, after I think he got 29 last week and looked really good. So I'd be happy to have a play there. I tell you, a guy who's been good to us is Sicily. He's actually had that little freshen up in the middle of the year. He's playing really good footy, and we know the D's, the guy like that intercept mark type player with the D's, the way they bomb the ball into their forward line, often does really good against them. So like Sicily again to get his 21, 22, I'm happy to play that again. He's been good to us week after week. It does feel to me like the Hawks are kind of peaking at the right time, Wally. So not wanting to get your hopes up too much, but they're definitely timing their run really well. They've looked like the Hawthorn a little bit that we saw last year, certainly in the last few weeks. So, definitely siding most of my bets here to Hawthorn. And the other area which I've noticed is the D's games. They're going really high scoring. So
Yeah.
the Hawks hat.
The Hawks had to come on.
Good, Wally.
I'm just
I
getting
like
inside. All right.
Like
So we're thinking over total points.
If the weather turns out all right. So just keep an eye on that. But these games are definitely, I think on the weekend there was 21 goals in the second half, and we're on the overs.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty nice watch.
That
the game
being
really
said, Hawthorn in the last 2 years when they're rolling have had a weird ability to put on massive scores in the wet.
Yeah.
So they have actually done this a couple of times. They've done it down in Tassie against North Melbourne. They've done it on the G. They've done this a few times. A lot of them escape me. I'll be able to get them for you, but I don't always worry when it's wet. We're a very good wet weather team. The other thing for Hawthorn is the separation of percentage is now important on a couple of results. So surely this is the game that they recognise and they go, we just need to really not take the foot off. We've had a 9-day break. We've got another 8-day break. We're playing on the Sunday evening. We've got heaps of break here. Let's absolutely go at these guys. We've only got one shot at this. We've got 2 weeks, and we would hate to miss out on a couple of percent.
Oh, mate, there's absolutely no doubt the motivation is not a problem for the Hawks here. It's just the D's they haven't been that easy. As we saw them against the Doggies on the weekend, they haven't been that easy for teams to roll over the top of. So, yeah.
All right, mate. Yep. Love it. Okay. Saturday night throws up another great game. I don't know what match of the round is this whether it's Freo Brisbane, whether it's Gold Coast GWS, or if it's Adelaide Collingwood. I think it's the expansion cup myself. But Adelaide Collingwood, Adelaide have been flawless the last sort of month and a half. They're $1.37 at home. Collingwood have been the opposite. They're 4 from the last 5. They've looked terrible. They're at $3.10. I don't know whether they're just done now and the age has caught up with them, or if we're just going to see them bounce back like we've seen so much over the last 3 years. They just seem to find a way to come back. But that back line against those 3 tools from Adelaide, that's the area for me that I worry for them. I don't see how they contain that.
Yeah. I think my first thought when I looked at this game with Wally is I just looked at what the AFL media actually produce around all this, and for weeks they were saying, no, the Pies are going to be okay. Don't write the Pies off. The Pies this, the Pies that. Then they have a bad game when they're 3 games in 11 days off a 5-day break. And now all of a sudden they're starting to say, oh, no, yeah, I'm worried about the Pies all of a sudden. Like,
Yeah.
fair dinkum, they jump off them at probably the time that you probably want to be getting back on them. So many of these people out there who have jobs talking about footy get this, like, so wrong. Anyway, I look at this like, as I said about the Giants, 3 games in 11 days, you give them a mulligan. The Pies deserve the exact same treatment after having this 3 games in 11 days. So and if you look at what the Pies did before that against good opposition, they were not getting beaten by too much, even though they were losing. So I'm happy to play the Pies here getting a 3-goal start. I think that they will definitely respond. It's likely to be a low-scoring game. I think what we're going to see here, Wally, is that they are going to really push back and try and help their defenders out, which is going to make for a low-scoring game. It's also, and somebody asked earlier, who are we going to see take up the possessions that Laird would normally get? And I think Worrell and Malira are the 2 guys back there who really do get a good matchup in this one. And especially with I see the Pies pushing numbers right back into defence, it will allow the Crows backs to probably have, really high disposals in this one. So my bet's in this, Wally. Pies getting a 3-goal start, under 165 points. We do have the first and second rated defences playing each other. I think, last time they played, which was this season, the game went really low. And so I'm happy to play that. The Crows under 90 points. You take out the last 2 weeks where the Pies haven't really been quite right with short breaks and whatnot. The Pies have only conceded 90 twice. One was round 1 and one was to the Cats and they scored bang on 90. So happy to play that. And a little watch when the teams come out. If we think Rankin's going to play midfield again with Peatling possibly out, a couple other guys under clouds as well, have a watch for that because his line's only 18.5. If he plays full-time mid, he clears that with, probably a quarter to play.
Okay, great, mate. Fantastic. All right, now we're through Sunday's games. Harro, first on the list is North Melbourne versus Richmond. North are $1.54, Richmond are $2.48. Keep giving Richmond longer odds. They keep finding a way to get in games and win games. A team that couldn't have been less impressive this year when they were meant to improve, and a team that everyone wrote off and said might not win a game this year couldn't have been more impressive in the Tigers. Plenty of players out to injury now. Both teams well depleted. Nothing to play for. The only thing I weigh with this is Richmond haven't not turned up to a game. They play with pride every week. North Melbourne have been garbage so many times. So I look at this and go, based on trust, I'd be on the Tigers. And that might be completely wrong, but they've just showed so much more heart than North Melbourne this year.
Yeah, even with that, though, I do, like, North have still rated higher than them. So there's that. And they do have a nice home ground advantage down in Hobart as well. So, yeah, I'm probably staying out of that market, who's going to win or the line. But there is some good areas here. Like, I've talked a little bit about these teams who have nothing to play for and they tend to go high scoring. Well, the Tigers aren't compromising on their style. Their games are still going low scoring. I go through their last 5. It's 108, 130, 150, 161, and 83 total points. So we're looking at a line of 166.5 here. And if I look at North games, and you have to get your sample right here, and just look at North games where North have been competitive, which you would expect in this one, and their last 5 games where they've been competitive, 147, 137, 157, 140, and 114 total points. So I'm quite strong on the unders in this one, Wally, based on all of that. Outside of that,
lower line too, Harro.
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think so. Outside of that, McKercher, he's coming off a tough matchup against the Giants. And we were correctly on his unders last week. He's still got 27, and now he gets a great matchup. And he's $1.87 to get 30. Very happy with that. Caleb Daniel, you could look at him with the same sort of thinking. Another guy, And a listener asked earlier about a young guy who's getting more opportunity. It's Finn O'Sullivan, who's that player for North at the moment. They're really trying to get him into the play. So his last 5 weeks, he's hovered between 15 and 20 disposals, where before that, everything was in the 10 to 14 range. He's 16.5 here, and with a really good matchup, I feel like he's likely to have a big game. It could even be a bit of a breakout game for him, mate.
Great. All right, mate. 2 games to go for the round. The next one, Sydney Swans versus Geelong. Sydney's been trying to spoil the party everywhere. They're back at home this week. They're $3.20. Geelong's $1.35 on the road. There's a bit of Jezza watching this, but Geelong trying to secure a top 2 spot, obviously, as well.
Look, it's a real shame that Grundy and McInerney aren't out there this week, because based off what they did against the Lions, they'd be, a massive chance in this. And I'm not writing the Swans off. I feel like the Cats are being overrated, sort of based on some recency bias, because of, they've been beating up on some poor teams, and that for me doesn't really rate. If you do look at the last 2 times the Cats have played teams that are likely to test them, they've been shown up. So the Lions beat them, and the Giants beat them both down at wherever, Geelong. So, and actually the Giants have beaten them twice, also up at in Sydney. So, I feel like if they were to get a proper test here, it would be great. But with those 2 players who are huge out of the team, it does sort of sour this one a little bit. Still going to give the Swans a chance, but obviously not as keen with those 2 guys out. Also, I like the over 169.5 in this one, Wally.
Nice.
2 teams that play attacking footy. No reason why that won't go over. And so that's probably where I'm going to put most of my attention into this one.
All right, mate. Now to close us off on Sunday, Western Bulldogs, West Coast. Look, they're $1.01, the Dogs. West Coast, $19. The line's 70.5 points, Harro.
Yeah.
Like, it's massive.
I don't have a lot of interest in this one. And look, the Bulldogs don't need percentage. They're well clear with percentage, so that's not going to be a factor. They do have a 6-day break into Freo. So, they're just going to want to bank the win, play a bit of bruise-free footy, and get out of the game with, no injuries and feeling fresh for next week, which makes this a tough game to be betting into. So, I'm probably not going to have a lot of action in this one. Or if you wanted to play something clever you could do here, if the Bulldogs have got the game completely won at 3/4 time, backing West Coast in that last quarter to win at the handicap, or even just to win the 4th quarter, is something that I'd look at.
All right, mate, nice. All right, Harro, before we go, I'm going to need your best bet, as always.
All right, Wally. Well, I feel like we've got a great opportunity on Thursday night to oppose the Bombers with their injury list. So I really love that bet, but it's not as exciting as backing the Pies getting a 3-goal start. And I feel like I want to be opposing the AFL media because they get it wrong a lot. And so I'm going to put myself on the line this week, Wally, and have the Pies getting a 3-goal start.
Crazy. That's insane. All right, love it, Harro. We're nuts. Let's go with it. Mate, you've been great as always. We'll see you next week for the final round of footy.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.